This morning arrived dancing in light, and I just went to the back door to watch the rain. I saw the light, those drops of light, rest squat on the road, on the dusty new tar.
Hello, I'm Bob Horne of Calder Valley Poetry, and this is the launch of this collection, a Gowpen by John Duffy. You don't know what a Gowpen is? Stay with us. Now, usually this launch would take place in an upstairs room at the Albert in the middle of Huddersfield, with a gathering of the literati of Kirklees, Calderdale and beyond, but clearly that's not possible at the moment. So we have this YouTube video put together by John's son David, who's managed to make something coherent and plausible from the ramblings of two old men. What you're going to hear is John reciting about half a dozen of the poems, and we'll have a bit of a chat as well in the middle. So without further ado, John Duffy, a Gowpen, over to you.
Here's a description of something I see every day watching from the kitchen window. It's called thirst. From the pewter-toned tin plate, a shallow bowl brimmed with clear ripples, the cock blackbird sips a beak's worth, tilts his head up and back, stands stock still, as water slips down the throb of his thrapple. A cool cascade, a 2-inch slake.
John, when did you first start writing? Have you written poetry all your life, from being a teenager?
I did write on and off for years and years, but I was very busy with work and with being a father and husband, and that took up a lot of my energy. And it was only in the 1980s that I sat down one evening in great frustration and began writing. And it was like shutters being thrown open in a corridor which had been empty for a long time, and all that sunlight and dust whirling about. And I think that's part of what I pursue, that kind of, I can see clearly what needs to be said here, or how I could pursue what needs to be said. And I think it's pursuing that moment, which of course only comes every so often, that keeps, one of the things that keeps me writing.
This video started, John, with you reading that lovely lyric, "This morning arrived." Which sounds beautiful. It looks even more beautiful on the page because of the form in which it is written. Has form always been important to you in writing poetry?
Yes, and again, it's very rarely thinking I'm going to write to this form, but because you read a lot of poetry, you see different approaches, very formal treatment of the subject matter, or things which are experimental, or things from a different tradition, and you think, I could try that. Sing for the Love of is the title of this poem, and it's dedicated to the memory of the singer Lal Watterson, and to her words and her voice. Lal sang odd songs she'd penned, bleak as an old moor sheep stood in rain and wind, or raw with joy she'd found, love, red wine, a child, the sound of a voice that sang from years past. Snagged on truth or tears of the right rhyme, words last, wild words hemmed into lines, a flock penned in by dogs in dry stone folds, with weeds and rocks and tree stumps, in the noise and rush of becks and the drag of time, old songs of folk that saw truth and spoke it. She died young, what she gave still lives. Her kin keep true what she sung.
John, you're a consistent writer of poetry. I don't think you're someone who goes through fallow periods. What makes it possible to keep that consistency?
I am very lucky in having the time and the pace of life that allows me to waste the time, which is what poets need to do to produce something worthwhile, to sit and stare into the middle distance, or to think about a word, or go about looking for a rhyme, or wondering what's wrong with a particular image or simile that you have.
Gowpen. A Gowpen. John, I'm interested in when exactly you came across that word in Batley Library. How many years ago was that?
Oh, probably about 15 years ago.
Not knowing that one day it would become the title of a poetry collection.
It's one of the things that poetry comes from, that it can be a word, something you see, something you hear, a memory just triggers off something that you think, oh, I can capture that better by writing about it. And this was such a good word for such a simple gesture, that it germinated and grew into a poem once I'd thought about it. When I worked in Batley Library, I became engrossed in a huge 19th century dictionary of British dialects, and one of the words that I gleaned from that was Gowpen, which gives this collection its title and is explained in this poem, A Gowpen. To make a Gowpen, cup your hands together, hold that hollow of skin and light, the portion of oats allowed each pauper, a Gowpen of gold the youngest son snatches from the fairy barrow, a Gowpen of meal at the miller's door, quick before the master comes back, a scoop of water for thirst, a scrape of dirt to make a grave. We carry nothing but our hands are never empty. To calm the child's fever, a Gowpen of snow, shape of pleading, gesture of beggars, all you can carry in two hands, a gift to a lover, this bowl of moulded air.
John, you've been a member of the Albert Poets in Huddersfield for many years. How has this affected your own writing?
We have had weekly workshops for getting on for 30 years now. Yes. So it has become a habit and a discipline, also a deadline. I would just think is something that writers really need, as a deadline. So I think I have to have something to take along on Monday. So you get to work on sharpening something up. And if you're lucky, it turns out into something that's good. And even if you're not lucky, then it's all practiced. We're experimenting all the time, trying things out and seeing what happens, rather than having a big image of high art that you're aspiring to. It's I wonder where this is going to take me.
John, I've always been impressed in workshops with how you can make pertinent comments on a poem that you've just seen or heard for the first time. Very perceptive comments.
I think the workshop that we have is a very high standard, and that is very stimulating, to be reading stuff which is new to the writer as well as to the reader each week. A poem I love is Sebastian Barker's In the Heart of Hackney, and I was really pleased to wander into the same landscape a few miles away in Walthamstow in the same river valley. Beyond the business park and Black Horse Lane, an iron gate, a path dimmed with arched branches, an aisle air thick with hawthorn, a passage into a wider world of light, sky and water, 13 reservoirs jigsawed into the floodplain of the River Lee. A few starlings fossick in lush grass and daisies. The long reflections of construction cranes nod and shift, ripple like Venetian blinds. 3 tussocks shuffle away, grey-lag goslings, watchful parents' necks at full muscled stretch. 2 ducks sink, pop up dry, impossible moments later, impossible yards away. Clouds drift across the vast arena. The sounds of London claxons, traffic, planes. Overhead, an early swift. Flourish, the Scots name for May blossom, hawthorn, Celtic sign of hope. I think that the process of writing is very much as Annie Dillard describes it. I feel at home with this. It is a woodworm chomping its way through a table and going along quite happily until all of a sudden discovers it's in 3 foot of fresh air and light. And that's why I try not to have a fixed idea of what a poem should be or what it is I'm trying to say. It's a process of discovery as much as more so than instruction, I think. The poet is finding things out by writing about them.
This is called Not This Line But the Next One, and it's dedicated to Extinction Rebellion and all those who hope and work for a better future. The future does not exist yet, and yet it keeps on having happened. The next line you will read was the future in the last one. We walk into it, cartoon figures, trusting our feet to find stepping stones that pop into being from nullity. Gingerly, one by one across the chasm, finding solid ground on what's about to be our optimistic footsteps. Fingers crossed.
Thank you, John, for that. And thank you, David, for editing and putting together this video. And thank you all watching this for staying with us. This is, for the final time, a Gowpen, and it's available from Calder Valley Poetry, www.caldervalleypoetry.com. Just go into the bookshop page and order as many as you like. Thanks very much, everybody. John, David, and all the rest of you. Cheerio. Bye.